The Dharma Talk on the Four Noble Truths by Venerable Thich Thong Lac. The Four Noble Truths, the first Dharma talk delivered by Sakyamuni Buddha after his enlightenment, have been preserved and transmitted through centuries. From the perspective of an enlightened practitioner, Venerable Thich Thong Lac has re-established and conveyed the Dharma talk on the Four Noble Truths with thorough and detailed explanations, making it easier for students to apply it in their practice. Venerable Thich Thong Lac always emphasized that the Four Noble Truths are the core of Buddhism, the only path leading to liberation from all suffering. He explained the Four Noble Truths very practically, delving into real-life situations to help practitioners apply them directly to their practice and achieve peace and serenity in the present moment. Venerable Thich Thong Lac pointed out that the Four Noble Truths are the four sublime truths of human life, a compass that helps us recognize and end suffering. He not only explained the theory but also clearly showed how each person can personally experience and verify these truths. I Dukkha Sakka, the truth of suffering. Dukkha Sakka is the first and foundational truth. Venerable Thich Thong Lac explained that suffering is not just the physical or mental pain we commonly perceive, but also the dissatisfaction and discontent in all aspects of life. He highlighted the common types of suffering that humans face: birth, old age, sickness and death. The suffering of being born, growing old, falling ill, and dying is unavoidable. He clarified that each of these stages inherently contains unease and distress. Piyavipalang dukkha, suffering of separation from loved ones, the suffering of having to part from loved ones and cherished things. The Venerable pointed out that attachment to people and objects is the cause of suffering when we have to separate. Apiyasampasa dukkha, suffering of encountering what is disagreeable, the suffering of having to meet people one dislikes or experience undesirable circumstances. This is the conflict between one's desires and reality. Yam pikam na lapati tam pai dukkam, suffering of not getting what one wants, the suffering of desiring something but not achieving it. Unfulfilled desires lead to disappointment and sorrow. Pankhupadanakana dukkha, suffering of the five clinging aggregates, the suffering caused by clinging to the five aggregates: form, feeling, perception, mental formations, consciousness, meaning the attachment to this body and mind as mine. I, or self. This is the deepest root of all suffering, as we cling to things that are impermanent and have no true essence. Venerable Thich Thong Lac emphasized that recognizing suffering is the first and most important step to escape it. If we do not see suffering, we will have no motivation to seek the path to liberation. 2. Samadaya Sakka, the truth of the origin of suffering. After recognizing suffering, the next important step is to understand its origin. Venerable Thich Thong Lac clearly stated that Samadaya Sakka is precisely the desires, craving, and clinging, greed, hatred, delusion. He particularly emphasized craving, tanha. This is the deepest root. Desires are not just for material things but also for fame, sensuality, food, and sleep. Bottomless craving is the source of all suffering. If one has this, one craves for something else. Craving for food, clothing, shelter, fame, profit. It is the insatiable craving that ensures suffering will never end. Hatred, dosa, this is a negative reaction when one does not get what one wants or encounters something displeasing. Hatred burns the soul and gives rise to many unwholesome actions. Delusion, moha, this is the failure to see the truth clearly, the lack of proper understanding of all phenomena and the law of cause and effect. Delusion leads to wrong perceptions and misguided actions. The Venerable taught that it is ignorance and the desire to cling that drive humans to create karma, and from karma arises all suffering. 3. Nirodha Sakka, the truth of the cessation of suffering. Nirodha Sakka is the truth of the complete cessation of suffering. Venerable Thich Thong Lac did not speak of a distant nirvana, but rather emphasized that Nirodha Sakha is a state of serenity, peace, and unburdenedness right in the present moment. It is a state where the mind is no longer dominated by greed, hatred, and delusion, no longer tormented by desires and clinging. This state, he instructed us to recognize by sitting in stillness and listening to our own minds. For a brief moment, from just a few seconds to a minute, an inherent state of serenity, peace, and unburdenedness can arise from within the mind. However, few pay attention to it because it is immediately pulled away by craving. To achieve and prolong this state, according to the Venerable, we need to be free from desires and unwholesome states. This is the core of liberation. To be free from desires means to abandon all worldly cravings and attachments. To be free from unwholesome states means to eradicate all unwholesome mental states, such as greed, hatred, and delusion. Let go of the mind, let go of all clinging, all burdens in the mind. The Venerable often taught that letting go of the mind means abandoning all attachments, no longer worrying or being concerned about anything. Attain the 4 jhanas. These are the stages of meditative absorption that help the mind reach a state of complete purity and freedom from defilements. He affirmed that Nirodha Sakha is not something mysterious, but a practical experience that can be achieved through genuine practice. 4. Marga Sakha, the truth of the path leading to the cessation of suffering. Marga Sakha is the truth of the path of practice to end suffering, which is the Noble Eightfold Path. Venerable Thich Thong Lac explained the Noble Eightfold Path not as theoretical concepts but as concrete practices that each person needs to cultivate daily. 1. Right understanding, correct understanding of the 4 Noble Truths, the law of karma, impermanence, and non-self. This is the most crucial foundation. 2. Right thought, pure thoughts, free from unwholesome intentions, and thoughts of desire, ill will, or harm. 3. Right speech, truthful and harmonious speech, refraining from lying, divisive speech, harsh speech, and idle chatter. 4. Right action, wholesome actions, refraining from killing, stealing, and sexual misconduct. 5. Right livelihood, earning a living through wholesome means, not engaging in professions that harm living beings. 6. Right effort, proper effort in abandoning unwholesome states and cultivating wholesome states. 7. Right mindfulness, correct remembrance, being mindful in all actions, speech, and thoughts, not allowing the mind to wander. 8. Right concentration, concentrating the mind on wholesome objects, attaining the stages of meditative absorption to achieve a pure and undefiled mind. Venerable Thich Thong Lac particularly emphasized that the Noble Eightfold Path is a continuous path of practice, not separate components. The elements of the Noble Eightfold Path mutually support each other to help practitioners achieve the goal of liberation. To help Buddhists not go astray on the path of the Noble Eightfold Path, he pointed out that mind is the forerunner of all phenomena. Therefore, firmly grasp right intention. Intention means a conscious and deliberate mental act of directing your mind or setting a purpose. This is the supreme weapon for us to reach the final destination. In summary, according to Venerable Thich Thong Lac, the 4 Noble Truths are the supreme Dharma, the only path that helps sentient beings escape all suffering in the cycle of rebirth. He urged everyone to personally practice and experience these truths, rather than merely relying on words or scriptures. It is the path of freedom from desires and unwholesome states, leading to a life of serenity, peace, and unburdenedness in the present moment. Subscribe to the Mindful Plant Path and begin your journey towards a more peaceful, compassionate, and fulfilling life.